Hello everybody, it's Tommy and welcome back to my channel. Today we have a very long build today. It is Saturday, so I tried to put my longer builds out on Saturday, but just looking at this, you probably wouldn't think that this would take as long as it has. However, I found myself really enjoying today's build, so I put a lot more time into it than maybe I would have of a build in this size bracket typically. So we're actually going to be building a magician's shop today. So this is Realm of Magic inspired. Obviously, when this video is coming out, we know literally nothing about Realm of Magic. So I am saying that very loosely. But to be honest with you guys, a lot of the stuff that's been coming out recently in The Sims hasn't been too inspiring to me, but one thing that I am surprisingly excited for is Realm of Magic. Not having seen anything from the game yet, obviously, so I can't really tell for sure, but I'm really excited to see what direction they go with it and what they end up doing with it. So I wanted to do something Realm of Magic inspired, and I've also been playing the Arcana pretty much every single day and doing the Let's Play for you guys. So one of the things that I loved about the Arcana was the classic magician, and that Azra has like his own magician shop, and you get to see a little bit of the background of the shop. It's very like old school classic magician. We actually, where I grew up in New York, we have quite a few stores that are like what I call magic stores, where you can go in and buy tarot cards, crystals, wands, stones, books, all of that good stuff. So that's kind of the direction I was leaning with this, but I did want to keep it very old. So the entire place is going to be lit with candles. It's supposed to be like an old school medieval style magician shop of sorts. There's a lot of different inspirations inside though, and the reason it ended up taking so long, I was initially inspired by another piece of art that I don't know if what I was using was a magician shop per se, but when I saw it, it immediately made me think of one and what one would look like if it was to exist. So it had a lot of really intricate details on the roofing. And unfortunately, we don't really have anything that is like maybe a roofing that's got a lot of different colors and variations to it. They're all pretty flat and straightforward. So I was kind of struggling with how I was even going to accomplish this, but I found a couple of really fun ways to decorate the roofing in this and make it look a little bit more whimsical and magical. So one of the big repeating themes that you guys are going to see me do throughout this video pretty much over and over again is these fountains that we have. They are perfectly spherical balls and they can be sized up and down, obviously. So I use them literally all over the roof and in different locations. So I think that that's actually going to look really cool in game as well when it's live, because some of them will obviously continue to spout water, so it will create a cool element to it. And we also have another fountain that is kind of like a ring, and those can be sized up and down pretty easily too. So with the combination of the two of them in the variations of colors that they come in, kind of overlaying them, putting some of them deep into the roof, using them as toppers, and then putting the spheres as well in the middle, or using the tubes around them to create something a little bit more interesting aesthetically to look at on the roof itself. So the other big thing that I really wanted this shop to have was like this overwhelming effect, very cluttered, lots of drapery, and that was very time consuming as well. So the decoration of the inside of the shop, even though it's so small, took probably just as long as the exterior did, with all of the things I had to size up and down, put on shelves, rearrange the furniture so everything can kind of fit, and give it that very cluttered vibe, very colorful as well. I wasn't really sticking to a color scheme in this. Obviously, when I think magician, there are a couple of classic colors that I like to go with: purples, darker blues, yellow and white, sometimes for like stars and moons, and those types of colors. But when it came to decorating, I really didn't want to limit myself. I wanted it to be a collection of things that you would find all over the world. That's another thing that I find really closely related to magician shops and magic shops in general. They tend to have art from all over. They tend to have sculptures from all over. It's like a collection of mystical items from around the world. So lots and lots going on interiorly, but I literally fell in love with this. The second I was finished with this first roofing piece, I was so overjoyed with how well it came out, and it was everything that I wanted it to be, especially considering, you know, some of the game limitations that we do have. Like, I would have maybe like to have gotten some more interesting shapes with the roof and do something cool with it, but just based off of what we have, I was so over the moon excited about how I had begun this. So I decided at that point this was going to be a pretty long build, and I was going to definitely put the time in. So this build is actually already available for download on my gallery under my origin ID, theallegedsimmer, all one word, if you would like to download it. No custom content. It does use a fair few amount of debug items, and we're also using some of the live edit objects, which are both like cheat enabled things, but everything should show up pretty decently. Tried to keep anything that wouldn't copy over out of the build, although sometimes I'm a little bit weary about what actually copies over from the gallery. I don't always know. So I tried to keep it to what I do, but yeah, I think it should copy over pretty easily. And I'm hoping that when Realm of Magic comes out, that this is sort of the direction that they went with it, like very classic magician, slightly Harry Potter style, but more of like the medieval tones and just old school tones to it, because I definitely want to make more stuff like this. I could picture an entire whimsical little magical village, very like Sword Art Online inspired, the Arcana, a little bit of Harry Potter, and just like tarot in general, which some of you might know. I don't talk about it very often because it's not really related to my channel, but I am very like heavily, I enjoy tarot a lot in my personal life. It's one of like my huge hobbies. I read cards for friends and family. I also read cards for myself, obviously, which you're not always supposed to do, but I do it every once in a while just so I can get a glimpse of like things like that. And my family was always very tarot and zodiac and spiritual in that way. Growing up, it was always kind of there, but it's more so recently that I've really gotten into trying to learn it in a more professional sense and just like learning what the cards mean so I don't all have to like look them up. I'm not quite to that point yet. I know a lot of them. I don't know all of them. And just understanding like how to read tarot and how to look at cards all together in a spread and like figure out the general theme and like overall vibes that are going with it, and like companion cards and all of that stuff. So that's a huge hobby of mine, and it always has been, like I said, but it's more so recently that I've been really sinking my teeth into it a little bit more. In fact, this is like kind of somewhat related, but I've been playing this game with my boyfriend Nate recently. It's really fun, and it's also a way to challenge myself when it comes to this kind of stuff because I am trying to learn. So one of the other things I'm trying to learn is how to all of the personalities of the given zodiac signs. So I know mine, obviously. I'm actually a Capricorn, for anybody who would like to know. And I know mine. I know like extended or recent family pretty well, but ones that are outside of my family, like for example, my family doesn't have a lot of Geminis, so I'm not super familiar with like Geminis, but one of the things that I have been trying to learn is personalities of each of them. So when I meet somebody, I can almost kind of guess what their zodiac is going to be just based off of how they're acting. So my boyfriend and I have sort of come up with this game where when we meet new people, we talk to them for a very short amount of time, obviously like first interaction and all of that good stuff. And then just based off of that little bit of interaction, we will try and make a guess each about what their zodiac signs are, and then find out later, obviously, who was right. And it's been a really fun game, and I'm actually really proud of myself for being able to recognize, like, I would say 9 times out of 10, I'm able to guess somebody's zodiac based off of limited interaction with them. But, Obviously, there's other things that come into play, like your actual zodiac may not reflect your personality based off your chart and based after all of that stuff. So that's something that I've been doing. It's like a really good tool, actually. I found that it teaches me quite a bit about that stuff, because when I'm getting to the point where I can recognize somebody's personality based off of just their general what they do, and then you can in turn recognize like that's their zodiac sign, then that's when I know that zodiac sign really well. And tarot cards, obviously a different story. It's a little bit more difficult to remember all of them and all of the definitions and meanings, but just a little bit of background when it comes to my experience with like anything mystical, spiritual, and stuff that I just don't talk about in general, because it literally has nothing to do with my channel and The Sims, but this is pretty closely related and what was all going through my head when I was doing this sweep build. So a little bit more about me if you wanted to know. Back to the actual speed build itself, I liked the original art I was going off of so much. It had an interesting shape. It had this dual toneness to it, where the main building in the center was white and concrete, and then it had these two perches off to either side that sat diagonally and then clearly were made of like a type of wood. So I liked the contrast between the two. And in that one, the purple roofing had this sort of swirling to it, like greens and blues, very like almost like it looked like it was made of stone or opal or something. It was very pretty, and I do honestly wish we had some kind of stone roofing that maybe did look like it had gemstones in it or something, very like Indian inspired, something like that. That would have been perfect for something like this. And in its place, these spheres all over the place is kind of like what I use to decorate and give some kind of dimension to it. Also layering some fountains here and there. That was something that totally came to me in the middle of doing this build. I wanted to have gold and silver bands all over the actual roofing, and I was trying to come up with how I was going to pull that off, and then figured out that we have this one fountain that's just a perfect circle that can be sized up and down, and it comes in a couple of colors. It comes in like pink and gold and green, and I figured I could just put that on the roof and then stack other things on top of it where you would normally see the water, and cover it up and just use it as like roof adornments. So a cool little trick that I kind of came up with during this build, you can actually see off to the far left, I have two more fountains that are stacked kind of waiting, because I do plan on using those in that back structure at the end. Another thing that was a little bit interesting about doing this build that I haven't done in the past, but I kind of enjoy this style almost a little bit better, I sort of worked my way from right to left on this, instead of just going in order, doing the entire place, putting the roof on it, like the way you would normally work through decorating a house. I was going through and decorating everything the way I wanted it from the right, and then just slowly working my way to the left. I think for a smaller build like this, that works really well, and I was able to get my ideas out quickly, because I was thinking to myself during this build, like, okay, I want to put this here, I want to put that there. And rather than waiting and then forgetting later on and trying to go back and remember everything I wanted to do, I was just immediately pulling stuff out and placing it where I wanted it to be. And I feel like it had a special effect on this that it turned out really nice. So I might stick to this kind of structure for smaller builds like this, but for bigger builds, this would never work. It would just be way too time consuming, and there would be so much back and forth between roofing and everything. Especially when you're doing an interesting shape like this, roofing can definitely be very tough. I was lucky that this had so many extra roof accessories. I was able to cover up like lips and edges a lot easier than maybe I would have if this was a larger build with less roofing required and stuff. So yeah, that was sort of fun, and I found myself doing it subconsciously. Like, I didn't go in with the idea to start from right to left and work my way over, but the more that I did it that way, the more I was like, this is working. I'm really, really enjoying it. And in a sense, it helped me keep a sort of cohesiveness to it, because I already knew exactly what I had done on the other side. So rather than like putting everything out all over the place and then hating it and deleting it, I knew what I liked because I had already done it on the right, and then I was just generally carrying those themes back over to the left-hand side. So something to think about for the future, something that definitely helped me if you are feeling like you maybe have a hard time decorating. Sometimes you're not really sure what to do. Just decorate a lot of one area, and if you really, really like where you went with that, repeat items and kind of work your way over to the other areas. Maybe a little bit of a tip there. It did also have this, it sort of looked like a tower walkway, a porch, a deck of some kind. Now, I am a little bit limited about how exactly I am allowed to do this because of the fact that in order to attach rooms to one another, they have to be on the same level. So I wasn't able to raise this up the way that I probably would have wanted to in order to give that tower-ish effect to this little stretch. But what I can do is the archways in the game, I don't know, maybe some of you know this, maybe some of you don't. Here's a little bit of a tip. The archways in the game can actually go up and down the same way that all other items can, but what it does is it creates a little bit of a gap everywhere that it goes all the way up from. So if you started out on the ground level and you slowly raise it up all the way to the top of the wall, you're going to get a gap at the bottom, but you still get the clearance at the top as well. So it's an easy way to make like a larger archway. And for this, I decided to raise the archway up so that you could get almost like this little porch off on the edge of this, and then cover the gap that it had made on the bottom with that blue awning, which I think I actually replaced later with something else. And it still gives the same general effect. It's obviously non-functional, but it has that effect, and you can skip the leveling system in the game, so it helps a little bit. And you'll see interiorly when we do go inside to decorate that little nook area how I got the stairs in there, because they're not functional stairs. It's a very non-functional thing, but it looks cool. It's something that I've never done before, so it was a cute little fix to that. And then lastly, for the exterior, there was this little bit of it showed in the image that I was using, there was a differently shaped room off to the far left by itself, and immediately looking at it, I knew that that would be a perfect card reading room, like a room where you would specifically go in to get your fortune told, to get a tarot reading. So I was excited to have that on the edge as well, and then play with the roofing pieces a little bit. I have cut some of this for time. Believe it or not, if I had kept everything in this video the way that it was supposed to be, this video would have been over 45 minutes long. So this was a lot of intricate detail, a lot of intricately placed items, but yeah, you can see how I've sort of layered the two fountains in the back and then the spheres on top to cover it, keep it all cohesive, and at the same time do something a little bit different so that you've got a lot of variation as far as like sculpturally on the roofs, but they all still have the same vibe because they're using the same items over and over again. It helps keep like some sort of cohesion together and keep it all very cohesive. Without repeating too many things, because that can get a little bit boring, and you definitely don't want a magician's shop to be boring, if anything. And the last thing that I wanted to do on the exterior, this is obviously a shop. There's a lot of different things that we're going to do interiorly as far as like what they sell here, but I feel like one of the classic ways to display like old school street folk timey villagey kind of vibes is to have somebody selling something outside. The original image also showed that as well, and I'll actually, you know what I'll do? I'll link the original artwork that I was using as reference for this down below in my description box, because it is so closely related. I would love for you guys to actually see what I was using. But yeah, they had actually drawn somebody on the outside selling some of the items, and from the image you really couldn't tell what they were selling, which was cool for me because it did help me figure out that I wanted to lean more towards magician in this particular speed build. But they had a little bit of an awning and then a table and some various items and like a bookshelf in the back and barrels and things like that that you would see. So for the actual items that you can sell in the shop, luckily debug is plenty heavy with items that I guess you could sort of classify as like magic. And it's unfortunate, obviously, that we haven't received any kind of a magical pack yet, although we all know we're getting one now. But it's not like the game is currently short of items that can pass as magical ones. So you basically only have to go into debug and you will find so many things. And I will talk about this a little bit more when we actually go into decorate, because it was such a huge part of the interior. But one of my favorite things that the game has is the giant gemstones, and they are a collectible item, I believe, but I thought it would be really cool to have them outside here as like display items of things that you could potentially find in the shop and have out on the table there as well. Not too much as far as decorating the outside, landscaping wise. I did use a couple of items from Live Edit Objects. They are these really, really large rocks, and they're actually one of my favorite items that we got from the Live Edit update. I don't even know where they're from. They're probably from one of the given worlds. Originally, I was going to decorate the landscaping and do some kind of like mystical rainbow plant, like use a lot of the alien plants that we have from Get to Work, and we have like plants now that are blue and red, and do like purple plants and make it look very kind of crazy like that. But I wanted this to be a magician's shop in a somewhat normal looking world, like something you would just find in your village, and maybe like in a village that practices magic, like a mystical kind of world in that way. But the actual world itself, not necessarily like every inch of it is covered with these crazy plants. So rather than doing anything crazy, we're going to go very simple with the landscaping, and very simple with this outside stone structure as well. We have a lot of room in the front of the shop, and originally I was thinking I'll decorate it with some flowers or maybe a fountain or something, but we have so much going on with the actual shop itself. It just felt like it was starting to get overwhelming. You have to like kind of find your balance between the two. So instead, I just decided to keep that very blank and have a nice large area for people to walk around so that they can get a good look at the place, because it is pretty. It is very beautiful in a kind of bohemian mystical type of way. And yeah, so we're just lighting it a little bit at night here, making it look really nice. Originally, I was probably going to take the thumbnail shot at night, so I wanted it to be really pretty, but I didn't feel like it showed the colors of everything off super well. But yeah, I ultimately decided it looked a lot nicer during the daytime. And I think we're finishing off the exterior with this last little structure on the outside on the roof, and that is definitely also a replication from the original art. Not even close, it was just lightly inspired by. But then we are going to be moving interiorly. So the first area that I was super excited to decorate was this octagonal little room that we have off on its own. And then you'll see I also took a roof and made it completely glass and added this little bump out to the back end of it. So I knew immediately I wanted this to be the card reading room, where you would go in, get your fortune told, get a tarot reading. So there's a couple of things that I obviously wanted to have, like a table, some chairs, maybe some kind of like card representations in any type of way. It would be great if we had some kind of tapestry or some kind of card poster or something like that. That was really what I was looking for to be the focal point of this room. And surprisingly enough, I don't know if this is just maybe an item I've never noticed, and I'll probably pull it out any moment here. I was able to find one poster that has cards on it. They are like traditional playing cards. They are not related to tarot at all, but I liked the little bit of a shout out. I pulled it out and I was going to use it in this room, but it wasn't giving the right vibe. It didn't really fit with the room, so I ended up moving it to the secret room upstairs, and we're going to use it as like a focal art piece in there instead. And in this room, instead, we have this beautiful wallpaper that I love to use whenever I am trying to do some kind of a room that is supposed to be like stars all over the wall. I love this wallpaper. I use it in my Polly Pocket houses. I did like a dollhouse as well that was supposed to be like a moonlight dollhouse, and I used this all over the place. It's so pretty. It's so like magical and stars and moons inspired, and it really helped keep the tones in here interesting with like the darker wood paired with like the blues. It's so elegant and so like magical in that type of way. So Obviously, again, I did want to keep this very clustered and decorate this like no other. So lots of bookshelves. You're going to find lots of books in a magic store. I know in particular around here where I go, if you're going to go to like a modern day magic store, half of it is books. So lots of books. We do have one tapestry that is from movie hangout stuff. It doesn't really come in anything that I was super pumped to use in this build, but I feel like peacocks are always great and closely related and just beautiful in nature and goes with like the general elegance. So did use that one in here. I believe there's another swatch for it that I used in a different room. And then there were a couple of items that I did find to lightly decorate inside here. Lots of candles. Like I said, this is supposed to be very old-timey, so the entire place is lit by standing candles and the candle ones that go on the roof, or ceiling rather. So that, and then we have a couple of items. We have one that is a sundial, so of course that has to be included somewhere in the build. And then we have a couple of really, really pretty sculptures that are like Greek inspired, and again that kind of ties into the overall theme of things from around the world. Also jungle adventure items, a lot of those are very like collectibles from around the world, and those worked out really, really well in here. And then just tapestries in general and extra curtains. Those are always great for decorating when it comes to doing something that is like themed like this. So we're definitely going to be using lots of those curtains from movie hangout stuff all over, but I ended up actually using quite a bit of curtains that were from different things as well, like all over. Paired with some of the mismatched carpets. I think those are from kids stuff, and those just go hand in hand, I feel like, with the magician shop. And then what I actually decided to do with this bump out, it looked like a perfect area to have a green room. So I feel like if an old-timey like magician shop was around, they would probably grow a lot of their own ingredients and keep things there that they would grow that they needed quite regularly. So it makes sense to have some kind of a green room where they could keep and nurture ingredients. So I wanted to do a little bit of a sunroom, and we do have a few trees and plants that are actually the ones you would grow from debug mode. You can actually access those, but because of the shape of the room, I was a little bit limited about just filling it with trees. I ended up having to replace it with some differently colored plants and bring in some different items that look like things that you would be gathering and tending to for different potions. I don't know, different mixtures. I was trying to be very creative with it. So we do additionally have this really tall item from Seasons, and it's got all of the different plants hanging from it. So I figured those could be like different ingredients and stuff. A little bit tight in here to get everything to fit just because of the arcing wall and the general shape of it, but we did get everything to fit pretty well. And anything I didn't use in here, I ended up dragging into a different room. So it definitely worked. I'm so glad with how small I kept this place, because I tend to overdo it. I tend to build so much bigger than I need, and then I'm so stuck when it comes to doing interiors because I have so much dead space to fill up. And for something like this where I'm trying to go for that cluttered look, it would have been so time consuming. So I was very, very happy with having this smaller space, and I immediately knew what every room was going to be as well, so it wasn't too much of a struggle trying to figure that out either. So the main room, when you actually walk right in the front door to the shop, is obviously like the main shop itself. There's going to be a cut any moment here that is pretty major, and it's basically just me trying to figure out the layout of the shop and trying to figure out where I'm going to put all of the shelves in the walls, and that took a really long time, so I just decided to cut it. But yeah, you end up coming straight in here, and this is where you're going to find most of the collectibles and the debug items and all of the various things that you would probably more importantly buy from the shop itself, as well as like pay for the items. We have like a little pay station as well here. One item that we really don't have that is going to continue to bother me is a basic bookshelf or stack of shelves that doesn't really stack that stacks on top of one another or simple. I would like a bookshelf like that has nothing on it for stores in particular and shops, so that you can just completely decorate it with overwhelming amounts of stuff. Like a plain shelf shop, literally nothing on it, And so as a result, I had to find a way to make something similar to that. And this is a new idea for me as well. It worked sort of, and I'll probably use it again, but of course I would like just like a real shelf. I found this coffee table. It's actually probably more of one of those slim tables that you push up against a wall. I don't really know what those are called. The ones that go sort of behind couches as well. And I figured out, like, why don't I stack a few of those on top of each other? And then you get this bookshelf effect, but it's completely blank and it has tons of item slots on it. So you can have all of the different items all over it for sale. So you can actually see 2 in the back there. On the opposite side of this wall, there are 2 more over there. And then I did 1 more in the front here. So you guys could see me decorating one and see how I sort of stacked them all together. The back end of this, behind this wall, I don't think I included too much of that decorating just because it's a lot of what you're seeing right now. A lot of raising up items, a lot of sizing and resizing, scrolling through debug, trying to figure out what am I going to use. But ultimately, there were a couple of like really key things in here. I wanted to have the toads and the weird bugs and the frogs. I wanted to have candles. We have a bunch of like the sugar skulls and the egg decorations, crystals, books, and then anything kind of weird. Like we have fossils in the game, we have gemstones, we have like so many weird items. One of my favorite things too as well, one of my favorite debug items in the whole game that I used in my Jimmy Neutron speed build, we have potions from the science kits in the game, and they're normally the ones that your sim would make naturally, but they're also available in debug for you to use. And when you place them down, they look clear, but as soon as you hit the button to place them, they actually fill up with whatever color you were originally going for. So I feel like that's perfect for something like this. It's like chemicals, potions, magic, all of that good stuff. So definitely basically repeating a lot of the items that you're seeing right here, right now on the other side, as well as some other stuff. Like we have this one hanging plant from Seasons that's got like herbs hanging from it, and that one definitely looks like ingredients as well. So I placed that quite a few times on the other side. And then additionally like fossils, books, crystals, like anything I could find that fit into this bracket, but still trying to keep a general like cohesiveness to everything and keeping it kind of structured. Obviously, if you were going to go into a store and you're looking for candles, they would all be in one area. Crystals would all be in one area. Books. So everything has a place together, and it comes across very cluttered, but also very neat and clean at the same time. So ends up working out. And yeah, you guys can see me actually stacking the coffee tables here. It was a little bit tricky because I'm trying to be able to place it on both levels to get it to work properly like that. Definitely a little bit tough, but I managed to figure out a way to stack them so that you can totally decorate them. And obviously some of them you do have to size up and down and you have to raise the items up, but it worked out a lot better than I thought. I definitely think I'm going to end up using that idea again. And like I said, I did it a ton of times on the other side, so that was a lot of decorating additionally just to add some stuff. And then, yeah, we have this area over to the right where you would probably go over and pay for everything. We have this little journal there, and then there was this pot where you could, like, brew potions and stuff. That's from Spooky Stuff, I believe, and I totally forgot we had that kind of an item, so definitely place that there as an area where you can pay, and, like, the little magician's station. And then finally, we have this area that was off to the far left, and originally it was a little bit of a dead space. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with it, but then I just figured it made so much sense if the magician actually lived in their shop. So it's going to be a bedroom, and we had a lot of room here, but because of the way that the doors were placed, it was definitely going to be a little bit difficult. So this is another trick that I like to do so I can keep exterior integrity and make things look the way I want them on the outside, but function the way I'd like to on the inside. So sometimes I will cover a door up just so that I can place furniture a little bit more easily. So this room already had 3 doors in it, and it was just too much with how big the doors were. So I decided to break it off, cut it off so that I can block that first door. That way you don't have Sims entering into the bedroom either. They're only going to enter through the main shop, and then just make this as like its own private bedroom, and then you have the one side door that they can get through. I also did that on the other side just to cut off the plants because they were clipping through the wall and I didn't want to move them, so I did that on both sides. It helped to close up the room, keep it all a little bit smaller too, and give that more cluttered vibe. And then we have this room upstairs. So this is the last of it, but this room was the tower part at the top. It is non-accessible, obviously, because we don't have stairs that can go up to it. There was one way to get the stairs to fit, but it wasn't going to work with the inside of the shop. So I decided to make this a hidden secret bedroom. I feel like that's very appropriate for a magician shop, that you would have a private hidden bedroom. So your sim can teleport here. Hopefully when we get Realm of Magic, there's some kind of teleport, move around, you know, like type of thing for a magician. Anyway, so I thought it would be fun to have a private room. And yeah, we do have this poster that I was talking about earlier that is the card. And I've literally never seen it before, so I don't know where it came from, but I used it as the focal point in this room, and then just carried a lot of the same general ideas over with a fireplace, rug, furniture. This room is a little bit lighter than the other ones, though. You might notice, like, it's got a general darker vibe downstairs, but up here we've got something a little bit light, maybe romantic, with the fireplace. And some old-timey furniture and candles and things like that. So that is actually going to be the end of today's video. Stay tuned for the screenshots any moment here, and let me know if you'd like to see more Realm of Magic inspired builds. Even though we don't know what we're getting yet, I definitely still feel like I can do more magical inspired builds. So let me know if that's what you would like to see, and if you enjoyed today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that little bell icon below to turn on post notifications so you can get updated every single time I post, and I will talk to you all in the next one.